Here's what's happening in Portland. A Portland man has been charged with arson after throwing a large explosive device at the Hatfield Federal Courthouse during a protest on July 28th, 2020. Investigation by U.S. Marshals HQ and ATF. Read more. Okay, well, we can read more. This is the Department of Justice. They say U.S. Attorney Billy J. Williams announced today that Gabriel Agard Berryhill, 18, has been charged by criminal complaint with using fire to maliciously damage the Marco Hatfield U.S. Courthouse. Quote, no legitimate protest message is advanced by throwing a large explosive device against a government building. Mr. Agard Berryhill's actions could have gravely injured law enforcement officers positioned near the courthouse, other protesters standing nearby, or himself. I applaud the ATF agents and the U.S. Marshal Service deputies who worked quickly to identify Mr. Agard Berryhill before he had an opportunity to hurt others. The violent opportunists engaged in dangerous acts of violence, such as arson, need to realize there will be grave consequences, said Russell Berger, U.S. Marshal for the District of Oregon. Serious crimes of this nature go beyond mere property damage to the courthouse and endanger people's lives. They say, according to the documents, at approximately 11:50 p.m. on July 28, 2020, security cameras at the Hatfield Federal Courthouse captured footage of a large incendiary object enter the building's portico area and land near plywood sheeting affixed to the building's facade. A few seconds later, the object exploded, igniting a fire near the building's main entrance. Federal law enforcement personnel collected various items near the site of the explosion and sent them to a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives laboratory for further analysis. They revealed social media posts the night of the explosion and located videos of the incendiary object being thrown. The individual depicted throwing the object, later identified to be Agard Berryhill, was a young Caucasian male wearing a green-colored vest. Now, how does that sound familiar, huh?
Yeah. Grammy's little kid.
Gammy's boy.
Gammy's boy.
It is Gammy's boy. Antifa militant whose grandma bought him a riot vest has been charged with arson. I believe the story is a little bit too good to be true, though. I don't believe his grandma actually bought him the vest. But so for those that don't know the context, this guy right here, he was shielding naked Athena like a very cringe-inducing white knight.
Yeah, she didn't seem like she wanted it.
She was pushing him out of the way, and he kept shoving her and getting in front of her. Ugh. Oh, man, that's the most annoying thing in the world. I'd have hit the guy. Like, stop pushing me and get out of my way. In fact, I almost want, like, I'd love to have been there and just grab the guy and be like, dude, stop touching the lady.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not even about defending the woman. It's about this cringe white knighting that makes me just so, ugh.
It's like, dude, can't you see she's trying to get her photo op? All right?
Yeah, I know. Like, let the naked lady spread her leg to the cops, get out of the way.
Let's just get this over with, please.
It's more about this, like, it's, you know what we used to call behavior like this from these, like, white knight dudes? Bad farting. It's a bad fart that clings to you, no matter how much you try and like shake it off. It just, people can smell it and they're like, oof.
Yeah.
Like you try to run out the room or something, and you're fanning it, just won't go away. That's what this guy is.
That's a good point.
Anyway,
what it looked like.
So there's a website. There was a website where they sold this. It's a reflective vest. It's supposed to look like a bulletproof vest. They're literally LARPing, dude.
Oh yeah.
This guy bought a LARP vest.
No, his grandma bought it for him.
Well,
supposedly.
Right.
Supposedly, we'll say that.
The post was made 8 days before people publicly identified the guy. And that's why people were like, hey, this post is from a week ago. And it was a verified review, meaning whoever left the review did buy the product. But it's possible somebody bought the product. They found him. They bought the product because they found. Here's what I think happened. It was the night before the 20th where the naked Athena lady did her thing. Mm-hmm. And someone probably looked up this guy, found out who he was, and then posted his picture on this website. That's what I think happened. I'm not entirely sure. It means they would have had to buy the vest themselves. A week later, a bunch of people found the profile, found the post, and then were like, dude, this is the guy. And now they believe his grandma bought him a riot vest. It's not a riot vest. It's a reflective vest for LARPing, like live action role play. This is literally an 18-year-old playing a game.
Yep.
Now he's being charged with arson.
He should
on a
be.
Federal building.
I mean, he lit. I saw him light it and throw it, and that was the big, huge explosion that we covered a couple nights ago. And it was like, okay, that is definitely something more than just whatever they were, a firework mortar. It was clearly something.
IED.
Yeah, an IED, exactly. It's like, okay, you play stupid games, which to him is a game, to everyone else is not a game. Like, someone could have been seriously injured.
This is what law enforcement does. You throw a bomb, They arrest you.
Yep.
You go to prison. And then other people are like, hey, if you do that, your life will end. This dude's life is over. I'm pretty sure what he did is a felony. All right. I mean, I don't know exactly if they laid out. Okay, so they didn't exactly lay out if it's a felony, but I'm assuming arson on a federal building is going to be. Okay, here we go. They say he made his first appearance in federal court today before a U.S. magistrate judge and was ordered released pending further court proceedings. What? Really? Wow.
Huh.
Arson is punishable by up to 20 years in prison with a mandatory minimum of 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. 5 years in prison.
Dude.
Now here's the most important question. How long do you think he cried for?
I think he's still crying.
You think he's still crying?
Absolutely.
He probably cried for quite a long time.
Yep.
And his mom probably gave him a spanking. And his dad was going like, I have no son. What have you done? Remember that Antifa guy whose parents brought him in?
What do you think he's saying to his grandma?
I can't believe I bought you that vest. What's his name? Is his name Billy?
You told me it was gonna be for LARPing.
Gabriel.
Oh, man.
Gabriel, I bought you that vest and now you're going to prison. It's all my fault.
Gaby.
Oh, Gaby, you're gonna get locked up.
Oh, man.
I think that's the gist of the story on this guy. But this is the perfect example of what law enforcement does and why we have many different departments. Could you imagine if people thought they could just do these things and nothing would happen? That's the problem with what's happening.
Yep.
We need to see these people in Portland, like, go to jail.
Exactly.
It's a combination of deterrence. I do think we need reform.
Yeah,
we need
for sure.
We need, like prison reform. How do we make it so that these people come out and they say to themselves, wow, that was a really bad idea. I shouldn't do that again. That's a big question.
Do you think you can connect this to the broken windows theory of policing, where if you get people in trouble for small crimes, you will be able to prevent them from doing bigger things?
I don't know.
There's a direct connection there.
I don't know.
Because, I
Maybe.
mean, arson on a federal building is not exactly small.
I don't know about I don't know if broken windows policing actually worked. There's there's pros and there's people who there's proponents and opponents of it saying it did or didn't work. There's an interesting thing I was reading about at the time when they were claiming this new heavy-handed policing was reducing crime. We were actually removing lead from gasoline, and like leaded gasoline levels coincided with like crime or something.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's true or anything. I was just reading an interesting article. They talk about what it's a question of here's the issue when it comes to policing and when it comes to broken windows: freedom or security. I err on the side of security, which means you'll see lunatics get released. I think the big problem with cities like New York is that if you simultaneously can't defend yourself and you have a ton of, you want to have, it's an imbalance in law enforcement, right? You tell people, okay, we're going to err on the side of freedom, bail reform. What that means is in New York, they passed this bail reform measure. Certain crimes, you get straight up released. We will not hold you because you can't afford to pay bail. They argued it was unconstitutional to hold someone unless they had money and poor people are being negatively impacted. Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree with that, actually. Holding someone could destroy their life. However, crime began to skyrocket. Why? Because it's still illegal to personally protect yourself in New York City in certain ways, to say the least.
That's a good point.
So then you end up with a bunch of very weak, vulnerable people and criminals being constantly released. If you're going to have freedom, it can't be only freedom for one certain thing. You commit a crime, you're free to go. Okay, what about my freedom to defend myself from the criminals you're releasing? Oh, no. No, we'll lock you up for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And therein lies the main problem with imbalance in... So I err on the side of freedom. I don't like the idea of, proactively going after people. If they commit a crime, they commit a crime.
Yeah.
If they're walking around like morons with shields, okay, fine, whatever. If they then cross the line, then you arrest them, then you charge them. But I do think we need to look at how we do prisons and try to figure out a better way.
I 100% agree. Privatized prisons are definitely an issue. Them trying to they want their it's an industry to them. The people who own these prisons, and that's an issue. Like why are you making money off of crime? Like we have to get rid of that. Incentive they need to be incentivized to let people become citizens and prosper outside once they get released.
But I was thinking about this. I think the issue might not actually be private prisons. It might be recidivism.
That's what I just said.
What I mean is when we pay private prisons, it shouldn't be based on them holding a prisoner. It should be based on after the prisoner was released, Did they commit crimes in the next 5 years?
That's what I'm saying.
We don't give contracts to prisons who have high recidivism rates.
Yes. Or when becomes lower, they get more. They then get to prosper. It's like then they can use that money for grants. Like the crime bill got rid of people being able to further themselves, and that's ridiculous to me. Like, why wouldn't we want them? At least looking to get grants to like have a library, to finish their high school education, or get a bachelor's degree in something, so that when they get out, they have something to actually strive towards. I
think the crux of it when it comes to jails and stuff is the system we have in place is like, we started in the Wild West. We started, okay, we're going to build a big room. We're going to lock you in it. You can't get out. And then we said, okay, well, we got more people. We need a bigger room. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we need a bunch more rooms. Now we need our own building. Now we need a bigger building. Okay, now we need to separate jails and prisons. So now we have jails for temporary holding under a year. Then we have prisons for everybody staying above, like more than that. And it's just, then we have supermax prisons. All we've really done has been like, let's keep making bigger and bigger places to put people, instead of saying like, hey, let's change the system and invent something that could fix this, instead of just, sweep it under the rug. Mm-hmm. I think one of the ways to get there would be, if we have private prisons, perhaps we should be saying something like, if a high proportion of the prisoners released from your prison go on to commit crimes later on, then we'll stop giving you contracts.
I like that.
And they're going to be like, okay, we got to figure out a way to make sure that the prisoners leave here and never commit crimes again. Otherwise, we go out of business. And that might actually make sense. There's interesting ideas around voucher programs. Who's the guy we talked to? Corey DeAngelis?
Corey DeAngelis.
Yeah, Corey DeAngelis talks about school voucher programs.
Yep, I like it.
The idea is like, if everybody pays taxes for schools and rich people pay more than poor people, but then everyone is given a voucher that they can then give to the school of their choice, so their kids can go to the school they want them to go to, it guarantees that poor people will have access to schools, any school they would like to send their kids to. And, it also guarantees the right for people to choose their school while having schools compete to be better. I actually really like that idea.
I do too.
Sounds promising.
Yeah.
For all I know, they implement it and it becomes the worst decision ever, and it's complete and total chaos.
Yeah, but I mean, well, to kind of bring that into the policing, it's like unions, the police unions, the teacher unions. They protect bad teachers. They protect bad cops. That's all part of this problem that until we look at those and restructure those, we can't even really get to the rest of this, because they're protecting the bad systems that are already in place.
Oh yeah.
So we gotta really dig into those.
Yep.
And they're an issue.
But the general idea is perhaps the voucher kind of thing could work across the board. Post offices or whatever.
Yeah.
So I look at prisons, and that's what we need. We can't just have the government be like, okay, here's a contract, take our prisoners.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be like, we've got a couple different ones that compete, and whoever has the lowest recidivism over 5 years gets the contract.
Yep.
All of a sudden,
I like that. That's a good idea, actually.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a really bad idea. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe there are some people that's got to be locked away because they'll never improve. There's serious challenges with people who just don't want to be functioning in a society or can't. I don't know.
You should at least give him a shot. Seems fair.
At rehabilitation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this dude's going to get 5 years in prison. And here, I'll tell you what I think. He's 18. I honestly don't think 5 years is the right call. I don't think it will take 5 years to convince this young person that what they did was wrong. I think it runs the risk of radicalizing them and institutionalizing them in a way that they can't function once they get out. Now, I'm not saying do nothing.
Do you think he knows that he did it wrong now?
No, I don't. I think now he's going to have a bunch of people whispering in his ear saying, see, isn't the state oppressing you for no reason? Imagine if he got a real...
good point.
So we'll see what the punishment is. They say it's a minimum of 5 years, which means there's no recommendations. There's no pleading. It's unless they drop it to a lesser charge.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think it's going to be the full arson charge, because nothing got lit on fire.
No, it did.
Oh, it actually did light up.
Very briefly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it did.
Yep.
But, I mean, it didn't burn down. I mean, I'm not trying to say it wasn't okay to do it, but I'm sure it's not going to be the full arson charge with 5 year minimum.
I kind of feel like that is the drop charge.
Really?
Yeah, if they're giving him only arson instead of like there's criminal damage to federal property, which is, I believe, a felony.
Oh, okay.
Then there's arson.
Oh, actually, that's part of the executive order. If you attack a federal statue, a federal building, it's 10 years minimum. 10 years minimum.
That's right.
So
well, this is does that include federal facilities?
I don't know. I Maybe.
I think
I'm not
that was specifically like a Veterans Monuments Act or something specifically.
Oh, okay.
Either way, this dude could be charged with, dozens of crimes, and they're giving him 5-year minimum. So we'll see what happens when he actually goes in. Maybe they're playing big ask and they'll drop it down. But I think I don't know what the solution is when you get these dumb. I mean, let's be real, man. This kid is as dumb as a box of rocks.
Yeah.
He's playing.
Well, it was his first time in the court, right? Isn't that what they said?
Well, he had his first time for these charges. I don't know if
okay.
But he's wearing a LARP vest, Like, imagine if a dude went and bought like a medieval knight suit.
Yep.
And then marched around in chainmail.
They were.
I know.
There was chainmail knights out there.
Yes. Like, they're playing games.
That's what they are. They seriously think it's a game where they have no consequences.
Dude, Grandma should have bought Gaby to a paintball range.
Yep.
And go play some paintball and get it out of his system.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? Maybe these people, they thirst and hunger for war and conflict.
Maybe. We are animals. All of us.
So
human beings.
What happens to this dude after he gets out in 5 years? I don't know. But I'd imagine he's not going to be functioning in normal because he'll have no idea how to function in a normal society.
Well, if they get rid of the police, Seattle's going to be a completely different place.
I don't know. It sounds kind of fun.
Maybe he'll fit in. Oh, yeah? It's fun?
Well, I mean, not if you actually live there.
Oh, okay.
Like if you want to go,
what I thought.
If you want to go, if you were like I said, these young men who are thirsty and hungry for conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, it's go into the post-apocalyptic. You like playing Fallout? Well, that's what they're going for. They're going for Fallout in real life.
I like playing the game Fallout. Yeah.
That's the point. These people don't realize they're gonna be living an escape from Seattle.
Right.
There's gonna be like gangs controlling everything.
There is.
I got to be honest. There's actually going to be a cathartic release when I see a bunch of like pink shirt wearing dudes with skirts on and like flowers around their necks.
Okay.
And they're going, and they have like community police in their chests. And there's one guy with like a hammer, and he's like, "Take the money out of the van now!" And it's like a Brinks or like the Brinks truck.
Please, sir. Please, no.
You
don't need to do this.
Dude,
we can all be friends. Let's hug it out. Free hugs.
And then he goes whack to their hand. It's Demolition Man.
Yeah.
The cops walk up and they're like,
that's a good point. That's what it's going to be like.
Get on your knees. No. What do we do? I don't know.
Wait, let me check the manual. He said no?
It says say the same thing.
I can't find it in the manual. What do I do?
He's like say the same thing and add or else.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Or else.
I haven't seen that movie in a while. I got to watch that again.
What?
That's a good movie.
But you look at that. I'll tell you what. Remember that video of that chick saying like "or effing what"
and
to
then
the cop?
they arrest her. Yeah.
Imagine there's no cops and she's just stomping about, screaming and smashing things.
Oh, Karen Land.
And then you're gonna have these dudes wearing like pink shirts, going like, "Can you calm? You're not supposed to break that. Oh, she broke it. Oh, geez. Can you stop? Oh, she's not gonna stop. What do we do? Let's get out of here." And they run away. I'll tell you what, man.
No, they're gonna be like, "It's okay. She's oppressed."
Yep. And then you're gonna be dude. Who in their right mind would want to own a business in Seattle right now?
No one.
Who in their right mind would want to live there? That's
No
why I'm
way.
saying, like,
I don't know anyone who would want to be there, and I feel bad for the people that do live there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, but I have very little sympathy for the people who are choosing to stay there. Now, choosing.
I feel bad though, because people probably grown up there. They probably have lived. They probably have their whole lives there, and it's like,
dude.
I don't believe that the majority of Seattle wants this to be the case.
They don't. People called into a meeting screaming like, "We don't care for this radical experiment and taking away."
Not surprising.
I'll tell you what, man. If you live in a city and I don't know, like a meteor came and just like crashed into the center of it and wiped out a ton of the buildings and infrastructure.
Okay.
And then you were like, "I'm gonna stay here." It's like, well, you can. That's fine, but I mean, you're like living in smoldering ruins by choice now.
Well, that's an act of nature.
So ultimately, here's what bothers me: the people who keep voting for this stuff. They voted for these people.
No. They voted. It's like no. Most people are comfortable in their lives. They don't think this is going to happen. They get too complacent with what's happening. They stop caring about the politics because whatever,
That's like I was saying.
This won't happen, right? You were explaining earlier. The silent majority is busy working. They get home from work. They crack a beer and hang out with their friends. They don't talk politics. Politics needs to be a regular thing for everybody, and it's not anymore. These people that are out there doing this, it is everything to them. It's the only thing that they do is because they want their message pushed forward to the front of the line, and that's what they're doing. So the people that live in Seattle, if they want this, by all means. But if not, they need to get political. They need to get involved. They need to be protesting also.
I'm actually thinking if Biden wins, we might see, so let me stop there. I'll start over. People believe that if Donald Trump wins, progressives will go nuts and start tearing things apart.
They're already doing that.
Right.
So what's the difference?
But most people are like, yep, the progressives, they'll rip everything to shreds if Trump gets elected. If Biden gets elected, it's only like 36% believe conservatives would get violent. And that's like, I'm like, well, those 36% are wrong. But maybe not. I'm starting to think otherwise. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.